Good morning, good evening, and good night everybody. My name is Sarah and we have a very different video for you today. Now, I'm moving to college soon and I brought this up before and I'll bring it up again, but I am concerned that I'm not going to be able to keep up with my normal book schedule. I am actually kind of a slow reader when it comes to basically everyone else on BookTube. I can at max read a book a week unless I'm doing a readathon and I plan out the books I'm going to read accordingly. Now, with that being said, I figured we kind of need to find an alternative, and that's what brought me to this conclusion. I do a lot of artwork, and I'm no stranger to having my art up on the internet, and I wanted to know if you guys wanted to see them. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you my Miscellaneous Binder, just my pieces that don't really fit in either my other binders, my Undertale or my YouTuber binder. These are just kind of random fandoms that I like and I enjoy, and I kind of wanted to make a piece for them. So with that being said, let's dive on in. Alright, here we are. Now I have 3 binders here with me today, and I'll only be showing you one of them. This one on top I call the YouTuber binder. This contains mostly Jacksepticeye, Markiplier, and Thomas Sanders. There are some other YouTubers in here that I would like to show you, but unfortunately, this is one of my biggest binders, so I can't get through all of it today. This next one I call the Undertale Binder. It is mostly Undertale. Undertale is what I was known for on the internet for the longest time, and so that's why it has its own binder. It's pretty large in itself, but this is where I used to store all my miscellaneous photos, which is what I'm going to be showing you today. Unfortunately, that did get moved to a different binder. This is the Miscellaneous Binder. This was my homework binder up until the school year ended. That's why you see this background on it. This binder only partially contains my art. It also has my script from the Miracle Workers that I was in. I get attached to stuff easily. I didn't want to throw it out, so it's part of this binder now. Starting off at the beginning, we have the very first piece I ever made in this art style of mine. Now this is a Gravity Falls piece, specifically Bipper, the combination of Bill Cipher and Dipper Pines. This originally started off as a sketch, and when I first made it, I had no idea what I wanted to do with it. But then I noticed we had a lot of colored paper around, and I realized what I drew was very much a silhouette picture. So I grabbed some paper, I asked around for an X-Acto knife, and I took a cutting board that to this day still has tomato stains on it, and I made this piece. Now, back when I first started doing my art, it was only 2 pieces of paper, and they were separate. They were not glued together. They were not connected in any way other than just being placed on top of each other. This changes not too long after I started making this, and I'll get over why in a little bit. But this is where I started off, and you're going to see this kind of influence throughout all of the rest of my art. Moving on to the next piece, we have what I like to call the Blue Kiss. Now this piece is what brought me into DeviantArt. DeviantArt is the website that I post all of my art on. If you want to check out any of this stuff, link is in the description, you guys. All of my art is free to download. Any art posted on DeviantArt automatically has a copyright placed on them. This is my work, you guys. I cannot stress that enough. It's free to download. You can use it as a background, but you have to give credit. Now, DeviantArt was having an event on their website. I believe it was last year Pride Month. And they had each color of a rainbow, and you were asked to pick one color and create a piece of art that represents or brings together the LGBTQIA community. And I chose the color blue, and I wanted to do a wedding card. This was my first attempt at doing facial anatomy. I'm very bad at it. You can see with the lines, it's very a structured face. But this is what started me off into that whole human anatomy journey. Bloop. Carrying on to that, this is the first piece that I used a stock image of, specifically the Ballerina. I don't understand anatomy that well, especially when I first started off. I couldn't understand proportions that easily. So I used a stock image of a ballerina and placed her over a snow globe. This doesn't really have much meaning behind it other than I thought it was really pretty at the time. I think it was partially inspired by Shatter Me, the music video, because I really like Lindsay Sterling. This piece is the first piece that I use more than 2 colors on. And while it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, at the time this was very hard for me to do because I had to get all these separate pieces lined up perfectly to make sure everything fit the way it was supposed to. This character is a character from the story Kahichio Hitman Reborn. I absolutely love this series, and different colors have different meaning in this, and so this character is very closely connected with the color yellow. This is a character from the same series, and they are connected with the color purple. This piece, even though it's not my best piece in the world, and it's not even my favorite character from the series, this piece means a lot to me because it has been my Instagram profile picture for the longest time, and it's what people generally know me as. I had this piece as my profile picture on my DeviantArt up until I switched to a picture of my OC, which I will not be showing you guys today. That will be in a later video if you guys want this series to continue. This piece is what started off me realizing that we have a problem with my current format. Up until this point, I had been doing different pieces of paper layered on top of each other. As you can see, there's a lot of color in this. And if each different color is its own sheet of paper, you kind of start wasting a lot of paper. So we have the purple on top, then the blue, then the skin tone, then the brown, and then the red. And the red is an entire sheet of red paper just for this tiny little heart. And I realized we need to fix some things. My first solution is what's known as a stencil sketch. Now, I didn't know that's what this was called at the time. I just found a stock image. I believe this was taken from this character's fight. This character is from the game Undertale, and in the battle scenes it's just black and white, so I could use their image to create a sketch outline. This was incredibly difficult for me to do. This wasted so much time for such a simple looking piece, even though there's so much detail in this. I realized this wasn't exactly the way I wanted to go either, but I didn't know what else I could do. So I tried doing it again with a less extreme piece. This is still from Undertale. I love Undertale. Again, I have an entire binder full of this stuff if you want to see it. But this piece is what started my hatred for the color white. Now, Miscellaneous very much spans from the very beginning to the very end of my arts. So you will see later that I do start using white again, but for the longest time after I made this piece, I refused to use the color white. Because the white I used in this was a cardstock, and it was absolutely painful for me to make, and it destroyed my knife, and as much as I love this piece, it's a nightmare for me. Sans. Well, what can I say? I didn't use white for this, even though he's a skeleton. I used sort of a skin tone. I wanted to make a bigger piece compared to the other ones, because the other ones were still really small images. So I took a sans, and then I took a Gaster Blaster, and I put the pieces together to make it a much bigger image than what it originally was going to be. Originally, it was just going to be sans, and that didn't look right, so I added some stuff to it. Again, it could be cleaned up, but this is what started me thinking that I could add some color to my stuff. This is one of my new-ish pieces, and this was probably the last one I ever used a stock image on. As you can see, I started gluing my pieces together instead of previously just layering the colors on top of each other. This was back when I started realizing how little representation asexuality got, and I started looking for characters in media, and this character from BoJack Horseman was one of the first, and I think still the only TV character to be confirmed asexual, and Season 4 just follows them, realizing what exactly that means. But there's a line in the Season 3 finale, and it's not exactly what I wrote on here, and there's a lot of different art online that you can look at that represents this moment way better than I did, but I really wanted to do this piece because of how much it meant to me. Like I said, this is the last image I ever properly used a stock image on because I was still trying to figure out anatomy at the time. And as you can see, there's some straight lines on this person who shouldn't have straight lines there. And that's because in the image I used, the person was leaning against a wall. Even though I really wanted this pose, I couldn't find a different piece that didn't have that. So when I posted it online, I just cropped out here and here, so it looks like they're sitting. I would like to take this moment to apologize if you hear any hawks in the background of this video. I am currently filming by a window, and I live in what essentially amounts to a nature preserve, and there are hawks everywhere, and I'm just... Now, I talked about this series on a recent book haul. This is Hikaru no Go, and these two are the main characters of this series. I really love this series, and I really love these characters. This is our main character, Hikaru, and when we start this series, he's a kid. Like, he's not even in high school yet, I believe, and he ends up finding the spirit, Sai. And while Hikaru goes up, Sai does not, so we kind of move from this father-son, mentor-student relationship to more of a sibling relationship, which I think is so well done. And so I really wanted to encapsulate that in a piece. But what I like about this one is that it shows my mistakes, which is really weird to say, but as you can see down here in the bottom, I kind of screwed up on his legs. And while I fixed it in post, I wanted to show you guys what exactly the comparison was. So what I did was that after I cut out this piece of paper and realized it was too small, I cut the piece directly above from the source paper and just kind of indented it along so it would form better when I blurred the lines in my editing. This piece never fully made it online. While the top portion of it did, the rest of it did not. And you can tell it's kind of a bit of a mess. This is inspired by the indie horror game Bendy and the Ink Machine. I love this game, I really do. I just fell in love with the art style and like the idea of animation horror. I believe this was inspired by a picture that you see at the end of chapter 3. It might be chapter 2. Where it's just a bunch of different scraps thrown together to make a picture of Bendy. And you can see Boris in there, you can see little Bendy strips and stuff. But I really like this piece, and I got the idea because it reminded me so much of my art. This is also the first piece that I wrinkled the paper on. I crushed this paper before putting it down and gluing this rest of on. You can even see I sort of did that with the lined piece of paper. When I make my art, I first sketched out on lined piece of paper before cutting out the picture. You can see it best up here where it's Bendy's hair. This was the original sketch of this portion. And so like, I literally just took the two scrap pieces of paper and put them together. So this is the first and really the only piece that you can kind of see my process work on. This piece is inspired by Assassination Classroom. And I absolutely love this series, but this was kind of a shot in the dark for me because I never talked about it on any platform before. And so when I made this piece, I knew basically no one was going to know where it was from. This piece, I focused so heavily on the hair, and you're going to see the reason why that is in the next piece, but keep in mind that was my focus of this. I didn't care too much about how the body looked. A moment of silence, please, for any of the skill I had before and after this. This piece was a nightmare for me, and this is never going to go up online besides what you're seeing right now. This was the only piece I directly took from a poster. This was supposed to celebrate Newt Scamander's debut on the big screen. I wanted it to be Fantastic Beasts, so I took the poster and I wanted to make a piece out of it, and as you can tell, it was absolutely horrible. I hate it, I really do. The hair is bad, the arm is bad, the anatomy is bad, just the perspective is bad. I really hate this piece, and the only reason I did not scrap it was because it showed where I need to improve and what I need to fix and what not to do. So that is why you never see a direct copy of anything from me. There may be stuff inspired, there may be reference pictures. I have said I use stock images occasionally, but this is my big no. This piece is inspired by one of my friend's OCs. They have a DeviantArt page. I will leave that down below. This character's name is, I believe you pronounce it Edrol or something strange. I've never been good at names. Any of you guys know that if you see any of my other videos. I cannot pronounce names. But this character, when it was made, did not have a specific gender. This character is not human. It's later revealed that they identify as male, which is cool and all, but they always like to wear skirts. This piece was so hard for me to do because of all the tiny little detail work and the layering of paper. I had to use really thin paper on the skirt because of how many pieces stack on top of each other. Because of all this stuff is glued together, you get sort of a 3D effect, a height difference. And so I had to use really thin paper, which is really hard to work with, especially with a knife and glue, because it rips so easily. And I had to make sure everything was correct and to the effects of the character's OC. This really should be under my YouTuber section, because I made this for Jacksepticeye and his playthrough of Shadow of the Colossus. If any of you guys have seen that, you know Jack is not the best at controlling his character, especially when it comes to keeping him on his feet. Yeah, he does a lot of faceplants in this series, and honestly, this piece means to me detailed work, way more than any of the other pieces I've shown you before, because you see this cloak, you see his shoes. Keep in mind, all these pieces of paper are cut out separately, and they all come from the same sketch. So once I cut out the sketch for the cloak, that piece of the cloak is separate from the rest of the sketch, so I have to lay that over white again and make sure it doesn't move. It's very annoying to work with, but I got it done, and I got it done right. It may have taken forever, but I'm happy with the results. I love doing contests. I really love doing contests. Not because I'm competitive. Frankly, I don't think I've ever won a contest I've entered before. But I just love the idea behind it. Like, getting people together to make the same concept and everyone has something different to them. This was a piece made for Teching 101's Green Bowl contest. Teching 101 is this amazing YouTuber who really only reviews one series, and that is One Piece. It's a manga series. I've talked about why I can't really review manga because it's a chapter-by-chapter story, and that's not the same format as a book review. So I really respect how much effort that takes, and the fact that he puts so much effort into it, he can only review one series, means a lot to me. And so when he announced that he was having an art contest, that was a big deal because he has had OC contests before, but he's never had an art contest. And the contest was to create a design for a character that's in One Piece that we know nothing about, and that character is Green Bull. Now, I misheard him, and regardless of how many times he said it, I was convinced he said Green Bull. So I made Admiral Green Bull sitting on top of a green bull. Now, back when this contest was made, we didn't even know the character's gender. Everyone wanted a female admiral, even though we knew it was most likely going to be a guy. We all made female pieces. Welcome to Night Vale. I love this series. I really do. And you guys can go out and buy the companion novels, but this is based off the podcast, the original source material for anything that you hear. I can't really talk about what this piece means because it's a spoiler, like a really big spoiler for one of the really most important moments of the series. But just know, I love it. The thing about Night Vale is that we have no character description for any character. So that's why this piece is even more in silhouette than any other piece that you see. You guys know Chelsea, right? She's been in a couple of my videos before. She's like one of my closest friends. Chelsea loves Danny Phantom. And so do I. I grew up on this series. But Chelsea loves Danny Phantom. And so last Halloween, I thought it would be a good idea to surprise her with a gift. I know. This was one of the first pieces I started to use white again after the whole papyrus incident. It also got me to use the color green, which at the time I was not using a lot of, so I figured might as well use it as a background color. Another Halloween aesthetic piece is this character. I I grew up on Pokemon. I did. I love the series. But I was never able to beat the game. I was never able to even come close to being the game. I was never able to make the perfect team of Pokemon. That's because I only wanted ghost types. And there are not enough ghost types in the game to make the perfect team. I wanted to go back to my original, 2 colors art design. It's good for this character, but I don't really think it works for the rest of my stuff. This piece was really made out of annoyance more than anything else. I wanted this as a screensaver. I wanted this as a phone cover. And for the life of me, I could not find one. I just wanted this scar as what it is. And I could only find pictures of it on the character, in a cool spooky bookmark background. That's cool and all, but that's not what I wanted. So I went off and made my own. This piece is taken from the D. Gray Man series. You can sort of see it on his face. It's a cursed scar. I really wanted his scar to be its own piece, so because I couldn't find it, I went off and made my own. Now, as much as I love musicals, I don't make many pieces for them. And that's mostly because every person interprets a character differently. Different actors, different costume designers. Hamilton's kind of the one exception, though, because everyone knows what the characters are supposed to look like. Now, I absolutely love Angelica. Angelica is by far my favorite character in this, and I would do a character discussion for her in a heartbeat. I'm just concerned that's going to go on for an hour. So to sum this up, this is inspired by the song Satisfied, which is the first song I ever bought from the Hamilton album. The last piece I want to show you today is kind of actually an old piece now that I think about it. I don't know why it's in the front, but this is just kind of how it turned out. This is Jenks from Teen Titans, the original Teen Titans, mind you, not any of the Go BS. Now, I don't know why. Jenks isn't my favorite character. She wasn't in that many episodes, but I remember every single episode that she was a part of. I remember not all of her lines, but I remember the sort of delivery of her lines. So I want to do a piece of her, but I wanted to try something different. And I wanted to give her a face. And as you can tell, that did not turn out the way I wanted it to, but I liked it. I liked how it kind of gave that weird, this isn't right vibe, which is very kind of fitting for her character. So yeah, that has been my Miscellaneous Binder. If you guys want to see more of my art, if you want to see how I make it, if you want to see the best and worst of my art career so far, leave that down in the comment section below. And while you're there, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And as always, good night, good evening, and good morning, everybody.